I felt powerless to begin with, but I've learned, there are laws that are protecting these things, and unfortunately there are some that they're not following.
Before we get started, let me remind everyone that I am a very big Elon fan. So big, it's hard to hide it. The bias, the name is in the channel. This is not trying to be critical of Elon. I understand that of his amazing companies, the Boring Company is pretty far down the list in terms of his personal engagement with it. He's buried with stuff at Twitter, with stuff at Tesla, with stuff at SpaceX. Neuralink, Boring Company, pretty far down the list. He doesn't probably know what's going on. And it's hard to tell him what's going on because there's not a lot of forward-facing people in roles that would do that. Investors have trouble getting word. Media has trouble getting word. And apparently neighbors have trouble getting word too when things happen like this. This is a move fast and break things kind of situation, which is sometimes helpful in tech. But if the mission is to do good to the environment, environmental rules should kind of be followed a little more carefully. There have been a lot of issues we'll get into. And if you're not interested in the Boring Company, if you're not interested in water or groundwater, public hearings, this video's not for you. Come back tomorrow. I'll be talking with Tesla Herbert. We've got some Cybertruck stuff to cover. It's going to be pretty awesome. This is an interview with Chap Ambrose. He is a neighbor of the Boring Company. He has animals, he has children, and their water is the same water that's in and around the Boring Company, and he has concerns about it, and he just wants them addressed. That's all. So with that said, why don't we just get into it and have some fun? So this is the Boring Company in Bastrop, Texas. It's a pretty neat place. Some of the neighbors less excited about it. As you can understand, there's a lot of dust, there's a lot of noise. This is the Starlink location across the street. There's a neat thing here going on. You can see a tunnel poking up out of the ground over there at the Starlink facility. That came from over here at the Boring Company facility. Fun fact, it's the exit only. Fun fact. Fun fact, depending how you measure it. I did reach out to them in advance to try and get someone to talk to, something to see, something to do, unsuccessfully, which is how I do it. So it's kind of fun, depending how you count it. It's either my 7th, 8th, or 9th attempt to visit one of these facilities unsuccessfully. So if there's an argument to be made for having a PR department, maybe you should have that discussion. See, there's a neighbor back behind this fence here. Over that way, I believe. Who's got a channel where he explains his difficulties he's had with the Boring Company and their move fast and make sure everything's broken all the time approach. It's not always ideal. So when I was in Austin, I had a chance to sit down with somebody interesting, somebody local who has some local insight. This is Chap Ambrose. He's got a channel. You can see it up on the screen right now. So my first question is, Chap, tell us who you are.
Yeah, I am Chap Ambrose. I live in Bastrop, Texas. We bought that property about 10 years ago. Little 10 acres compared to the neighbors. And now Elon is one of those guys.
And now you've got a new neighbor. Mm-hmm. So you're an Elon fan.
Yep.
You love the cars. You love you've got a toy Cybertruck you made at home because it was so cool. Mm-hmm. What did you first think when you heard Boring Company's coming, not just to town, but next door?
I think initially a little fear, because it really was, hundreds of acres of cow pasture and our little house on the hill. So I think just like this is going to change was initial, but it's like, but it's Elon. This could be cool. Like, this is not going to be just another neighborhood, which is mostly what we get out there these days. So it's like, I was interested and started to dig in and be interested.
And it's exciting in that regard. Mm-hmm. So you see Boring Company is coming. They start moving some stuff in. How quickly did it get kind of big?
Very.
Almost immediately?
Yeah, because they have that big, and you saw at the I call them a Tesla tent, but
Right, the sprung structure.
Yeah.
It's not a tent, Marie.
Sorry. The sprung structure, they can do those quick.
Yeah.
So it was like that happened, and they started pouring concrete, and it was like, okay, yeah, they move quick, absolutely.
They do move quick. So some issues may have arisen. What kind of issues came up?
Yeah, well, we're having, environmental concerns. The initial issues with wastewater. So in Texas, there's very few laws about what you can do on your own property, but the laws that do exist are, water, air, and traffic is kind of like those things need to be safe for the public, no matter what you're doing on your side.
Because those aren't your property; those are everybody's property around you.
And we share those resources, right? Absolutely. And so that's where I felt powerless to begin with. But I've learned, there are laws that are protecting these things. And unfortunately, there are some that they're not following.
If you haven't checked out Chap's channel, I know I already mentioned it, but he does some longer form, really great videos about the whole experience of being boring adjacent. So one of the problems that came up was, there was the structure there before, a house,
Cabin.
a cabin, and I mean, it had a septic tank. Yep. So when you bring in, how many parking spots?
It's over 200 now, yeah.
When you bring in 200 parking spots, there's an assumption that you've got a decent sized number of people there. Oh, what do you do? You just...
Well, what they do is they, just start redirecting all their wastewater into that legacy system.
That's not going to fit.
No, and it's not just the manufacturing and office. They actually have families living there, employees living there. I think they're almost up to 12 double wides now.
Are you allowed to do that?
You are allowed, and actually the county has more restrictions on RV parks than they do on factories. So it's very specific on how close they can be, and sidewalks and spacing and water. So they are allowed to do that. From what I can see, they're following those rules, which is great. But the wastewater has been an issue because as they expand, it's not just permitted in the county. You reach a certain scale, and that's 5,000 gallons in Texas, and you have to get permitting from the state, and it's a longer approval. And so I've been told a year and a half is not uncommon for someone to go through this process, and there's public comments and all this thing that I'm still learning.
So there's 3 ways to get rid of water, depending on what kind of water it is. You've got septic or other holding tanks that are temporary, which they haven't done.
Right.
There's the public sewer, which they haven't tied into. There's one more. You could dump it in the river. How many gallons a day is it?
The permit is for 140,000.
So like 3 swimming pools a day of effluent into the Colorado River.
But that doesn't even include the SpaceX Warehouse that they built.
Which is not yet operational.
Right.
Across the street, I'm telling you this, but because it's probably in the B-roll that's already going, is the new deceptively huge SpaceX facility where I believe Starlink terminals are going to be made.
I talked to a SpaceX employee. He told me, Dishy production is what they're doing.
That was rumored to be...
I think the job postings confirmed that.
Good. So we've got an answer there. You're the neighbor. They want to stay on good terms.
Do they?
Sorry. Do they?
Sorry.
Do they? Do they? I mean...
I don't think they do.
On paper, they do. On paper, they want to.
You mean they've published something that says, or just the assumption of good behavior?
Well, less problems is easier.
Yeah, you'd think so.
You would think so. Do you have someone you can talk to at the company?
The last contact I had was their lead engineer who's on this permit, and his number is actually, it's a public document. You can call the engineer and talk to him about it. So
I will not put that up on the screen right now, but I could.
Anyone can find it. And it was actually really good. And I had some questions, and there's actually the state is putting on a public meeting for this permit on March 21st in Bastrop. So I just had some questions there, and we're trying to figure out what our response is to that.
So this is going up before March 21st. If you're in the Austin area and you just want to see it, you want to see the hearing, you want to participate in the hearing, whatever. I don't know what the rules are for participation, but they will be posted there for sure. No recording of video in the hearings.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not sure, but I noticed at your last hearing.
Well, that was just because I was scrambled.
Oh, I see.
But actually, that's the county court, you're right. You're not supposed to record in county court. So I did the right thing there.
I think you did the right thing. Yeah. So the hearing's coming up. I'm not saying that 140,000 gallons is dangerous or wrong. I'm saying I don't know, and I'm saying there is no information available that would persuade me to believe that it's no big deal.
And what I would say is they have a history of violations from the county on wastewater, and with this state agency, they already have all other violations. And so my concern is that pattern will continue.
They have been known to cut a corner or two. Yeah. With how rigorous the permitting is in Berlin, I don't know if you saw the picture of the permits, but it was an entire volume of binders. Mm-hmm. They recently applied for preliminary permit approval for phase 2. And there were a lot of omissions that that caused a delay. In the permitting for the expansion to the south end of Giga Texas, it was woefully incomplete. Like Texas is ready to rubber stamp anything he does, and they said it was incomplete.
Same thing in Bastrop.
So and it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission.
But you got to ask.
But you got it. You got to ask.
And we haven't seen that yet.
And we haven't seen it. What would be the minimum that the boring company, and really we now need to lump in SpaceX, because if you're a neighbor to boring, you're a neighbor to Starlink's new facility.
There's literally a tunnel that connects them.
A tunnel that connects them, as you can see in the footage right here. What would be the minimum that they could do to put the community's mind at ease and make things a little better?
Follow the law.
Follow the law. See, I was thinking pizza parties.
I mean, I'll take that too. We were promised barbecue. We were promised fiber internet. We've been promised a lot that we haven't received, but there's no laws on that.
Yeah. There's no pizza party amendment to the Texas state constitution, and you call this the land of cows. That's what it says. I just decided. So there's the minimum, follow the law. What would you actually like to see? Like it's up to you.
In order for me and my family to feel comfortable there, I want real-time data of any potential issues. And so I'm learning how that could happen. But it's worked on an honor system. And like you said, rubber stamping, and nobody actually comes out to check, and there's no follow-up. And when you do report an inspection, I'm waiting 4 months on a water issue that I reported. So I want to know today if there's a spill, because I'm not going to put my boy in his bath, So that gets me above the law. But so far I haven't found in the law that that's be required. But
so when it comes to air quality, real-time monitoring is available next to every major industrial area. Mm-hmm. And if it isn't, you can put your own up. Mm-hmm. With water, it's a little more complicated on account of gravity and how the ground works. That would be a nice step in the right direction.
One of the interesting things you probably have footage of is that big ring they have, their sign.
Right out of the street. So
that driveway was actually illegally built. And for a year, and you'll see they argued about why the rules didn't apply to them. But it's too close to Walker Watson, it's too narrow, and with the traffic they have through, it's just not safe. So for a year, there's these emails on why they shouldn't do it. And eventually, TxDOT said, we're going to barricade it. If you don't submit a permit, they submitted a permit, they got all these exceptions, they signed off. So I just think it's kind of funny that this grand entrance is the example of what they have not done right in the neighborhood.
It's poetic almost. And now that you mention it, that entrance is very narrow, and the road is not wide. The truck's swinging, because we were parked there. The truck's swinging by, you look at it, and if a truck needs to come out this way, they're going to not just clip us, they're going to be on the median or on the side of the road and
there's no shoulders in Texas County roads, and that, I mean, we're starting to get into the security concerns in my family. We've had issues, been in accidents on that road because it's 60 mile an hour between these construction sites, and unfortunately they're treating it like some kind of private drive, and that's not. There's no stop signs, there's no lights, it's 60 miles an hour.
The dust is also truly massive. The noise is. Do they work at night?
Yeah. But Texas law is 85 decibels at the perimeter, and according to my readings, they haven't gone over that yet. But that's basically a vacuum cleaner next to your head.
That's unfortunate. I'm a big fan of the Boring Company. I understand what they're doing and how they're doing it and why it's different and why it could work. There's a lot of steps that have been kind of skipped. And this is a trend with Elon companies. The best PR is no PR. The best permit is no permit. The best easement around my driveway is no easement around my driveway. And the best apology to Chap is no apology to Chap. That's unfortunate.
Thank you. I appreciate your empathy.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're welcome. I don't know how to respond to that. So I'm going to go ahead and put up a full page here on the hearing on the 21st. If you are going to be in the Austin area, maybe check it out, whether you're a fan or a fan of clean water. I don't know.
There you go. Who is it?
Well, I am made mostly of water, but I checked, it's filthy.
Yeah. And mine's mostly been filtered through coffee beans.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, a little bit of iron in mine, surprising amount of copper. I'm concerned. But fortunately, my alcohol blood content has gotten back under 50%. So that's good. Try and keep it light. Okay, so, in the comments, we've got a little bit of time before the hearing. I imagine if there's anything really clever in the comments, Chap will check it out. What do we miss? What do we misunderstand? Leave it all in the comments. Let us know. Subscribe, because, I'm dying here, man. But, yeah. And thanks as always to my patrons who get early access, bonus content. Sometimes get to meet me. It's crazy.
It's worth it.
When I was out at Starbase, we were doing B-roll, and this car pulled over, blocking traffic, and the guy jumps out and he runs over, and he's like, "It's so good to see you." And yeah, I know my demographic, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's so fun. He's like, "I'm sorry if I'm bothering you." I said, "I am not famous enough for that to apply." Yeah. I'm sure, yeah.
You'll get there.
I hope, because I hope. So stay tuned, stay juicy, and we'll catch you guys on the clean side of the river.